And we are live. Welcome to RetroSlot, episode 17, the one about Resident Evil and other stuff. I'm sure we'll talk about other stuff. I mean, it's not just going to be Resident Evil. If you're not a Resident Evil fan, don't just turn the channel. Don't just go start watching like some other podcast about retro video games. We'll talk about other stuff, for Christ's sake. Leave us alone. Back the fuck up.
I'm not a fan of Resident Evil. Spoiler. Bye.
Wow.
I'm out.
Guess it's just going to be me on this one. How are you, Jay? What have you been up to?
I'm good. Man, 3 weeks.
It has been. It's just been 3 weeks, right?
Yeah. You had the internet issues last week, and you said that they came out at midnight to fix it?
They came at midnight. They didn't... I mean, it wasn't like they had to come at midnight. They said, you know, when would you like somebody to come? I said, well, when's the soonest available? And they said, well, we have an appointment at midnight. Like, expecting me to say, go fuck yourself. But I was like, I'm desperate. I'll take anything.
Yeah.
And I took it. And the guy was here at midnight. And, you know, he actually fixed it, too. I guess it was the problem between the house and the street. You know, usually...
Oh, nice.
I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of texts out here for internet issues over the years. And usually it's not a problem in the house or, like, on the property. It's usually, like, a node or you know, who the hell knows what's going on?
Have you tried resetting your router?
I have, actually. I don't know if you know this, Jay. I was actually a cable guy. I actually installed cable internet.
Really?
Yeah.
So you tell them that. You're like, don't give me any of that.
I don't even bother telling them that because it gets me nowhere. But, like, I do know, like, because I used to install it, I know the troubleshooting steps. I mean, this was a long time ago, to be honest with you. So this was in, like, 2001. So it was like 20 years ago, literally, that I was a cable guy.
Jeez. Have you seen that movie, by the way?
I love that movie. It's a classic.
Oh, my. Not very many people like it / know about it, but it's, I love Jim Carrey, and that movie is just it's just a meme and a half.
Jim Carrey.
Cable guy.
Oh, cable guy. I thought you were talking about 2001.
No. Space Odyssey. You're like, well, Jim Carrey. What on earth movie are you watching?
Did he play the ape? I actually like both of those movies. The Cable Guy was a pretty funny movie. It was smarter than initially, like, the public gave it credit for, I think, if that makes sense. Like, it was a more intellectual movie than I think people gave it credit for.
Was it Matthew Broderick? I'm trying to remember. Matthew Broderick
was. Yeah. Yeah, that was from, like, the late 90s, wasn't it? When did the Cable Guy come out?
It was like 97 or something.
Wasn't there a scene where they went to, like, a Knights of the Round Table kind of like...
Yep. Man, I love that so
that
much.
That was good stuff. Yeah, that movie was good, man. So what have you been up to for 3 weeks? I haven't seen you for 3 weeks. So I want to catch up on my J time.
Yeah. My son had a fever of like 102 for a couple of days, and it's weird. I caught it, but I didn't have a fever. I just had like a really bad head cold for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
That went away. It wasn't COVID or anything. And then, I don't know, a couple of days ago, my daughter, who's almost a year and a half, pulled down our lamp and shattered everywhere. I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, but just glass. Just, it looks like a horror scene. It looks like something out of Resident Evil, trying to get out of the house.
Yeah.
And there's like Legos right next to it and stuff. But
kids are fun, huh?
Yeah. I wasn't even like, she was in my vicinity, and just all of a sudden, and I just look over. It was like literally 2 feet to my right, but I wasn't looking at it. It's just
it happens, man. Kids, they don't know they don't know their own strength. They don't know, like, the consequences of their actions. Like, they don't. They just they're checking stuff out. Yeah.
She tried to do it again, like, after we had cleaned it all up. She's like, like literally smiling at us as she's like messing with the lamp.
She's like that cat that's like slowly moving your glass toward the edge of the table and looking at you dead in the eye.
Yeah, it was pretty hilarious. Oh man. I have my second COVID shot coming up on Sunday.
Oh, nice.
And Yeah, it should be good. And then other than that, just I've been doing and you guys will see anybody who's watching the YouTube video, you'll see and listen to, but I kind of went crazy the last 2 to 3 weeks on taking old stuff to the retro store, trading it in, getting a bunch of stuff in return. Just, you know, the market is so ridiculous right now that I'm getting prices for stuff I never would have thought. So, yeah, a lot of that.
You know what? This isn't retro game related, but it's adjacent. Is baseball cards. Out of
Yeah.
nowhere, baseball cards are crazy popular again and going for crazy amounts of money. It's like
Yeah.
outrageous amounts of money. And like baseball cards were dead for
Mhm.
30 years. Like 30 years they were dead. And now all of a sudden, like baseball cards are back. Is anybody watching baseball? No.
Didn't
But
they
for
have to
some
shut
reason,
down they had to, like, stop selling them at Target or something because people were lining up and causing all sorts of issues and stuff?
I think that's like all collector's cards, like Pokemon,
Mhm.
whatever the
Magic and
Magic, like all of them are just like a nightmare for Target.
crazy.
I don't think Target's making big margins on cards, right? Because they're selling them
Yeah,
for retail prices. They're not selling them for collector prices.
right.
So they're not. I mean, they're just getting harassed about it. It is weird though that like all of a sudden like basically anything collectible is on
Mhm,
fire. And
mhm,
I think, I mean, it's got to be because everybody's at home with COVID, right? It's like people have more time to spend at home. I think a lot of people have more disposable income because they're not going out at night. They're not
mhm.
spending money on like kind of doing,
Vacations and stuff.
yeah, vacations and stuff. And like those stimulus checks come in. A lot of people really need those stimulus checks and they're making ends meet. A lot of people don't need those stimulus checks and they're just extra fucking money. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
like, I think those are going toward like some cool stuff for those who want it. Yeah, but it's prices all across the board are ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, after COVID, it'll come down, but it won't I don't think it'll be an immediate. I think it'll just, like, taper off over time, as people are like, "Yeah, I really don't need this," you know?
that makes sense. Yeah,
We'll see.
we will. I feel like I've picked up like 5 different hobbies during COVID.
Like what?
I don't
Anything
know.
you wanna share?
I mean, retro gaming was definitely the first one that I really jumped back into. I got into I got my motorcycle going again. That was fun for a day. What else did I do? I went to the racetrack with my car. That was fun. What else did I do? I don't know. They'll come to me as I think about it, but I
That
can't
must have been
remember
recent,
all
the
of them.
Mustang?
No, that was my Honda Accord.
Okay, okay. Did you
I
have, like, the big old muffler on it? The
no, it was a bone stock leased car.
Okay. Just pushing it to the edge right before you sell it?
No, that was I think it was just I think I had a year and a half left on the lease. It was only a 3-year lease. I just it was just like the opportunity presented itself to like I found out that there was a racetrack near me that you could just go to basically on certain days and like you're not racing anybody, you just have the opportunity to drive your car on a racetrack. The problem is that your car is not insured on a racetrack, so
Right.
you got to be careful. But everybody's being pretty careful. Like you're not racing, you're just
Yeah.
driving fast. Um, and it was a really fun experience. I'd highly recommend if anybody would do it, but it's a cool thing to do.
Nice. What else do you got in the last 3 weeks going on?
The last 3 weeks, let's see. I've been busy. So I'm a photographer. I do sports photography for like kids, with like little league baseball and like soccer, like that kind of stuff. And we have been going nuts because basically we had the year off last year with COVID. Nobody was playing any like kids size sports, but this year they're all back. People are getting vaccinated. In Connecticut, we're like 80% of the people who can be vaccinated are vaccinated. So we're like way ahead
Oh.
of the curve in
Mhm.
Connecticut. We're still wearing masks and everything, but we are like back to doing stuff. And like sports are back for kids, like high school level sports and under. So I've been doing a lot of that. Plus, it's just been nice to be outside. I got a new Mustang. I've been going for a lot of like long drives. I went up to Great Barrington, Mass the other day just for funsies. My wife who owns a horse, she's been at the barn a lot, riding horses. Like, it's just been, after being cooped up for a year, it's been actually one of the nicest springs I can remember in my lifetime, like 70-degree weather day after day after day with no rain. It's just nice to be outside. We've just been like enjoying the shit out of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it has been. It's been a good spring. It's just like, it feels like we're coming out of COVID, you know?
A little bit. Yeah, Oregon, even like the whole time has been kind of bottom 5 as far as infections and deaths and stuff. So,
Mhm.
but you know, we're super paranoid about that kind of thing too, and people are still wearing masks and
Yeah.
whatnot. So
Yeah, most people are. I think when the CDC recommended that, like, if you're at an outdoor activity, you don't have to wear a mask. I was still like, I'm gonna wear a mask anyway, because why not? And at this point, I'm used to it. I don't even notice I'm wearing a mask. But like, it's nice to know that I can be at an outdoor activity with like people and not like be at high risk.
right. That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So, retro news.
Retro news. Is there retro news?
There's a little bit. There's a little bit.
All
It's
right.
not as, I mean, like, it's been 3 weeks, and I feel like it's been kind of the lighter, since probably the beginning of the year. It's the lightest kind of month that we've had as far as retro news. It's really interesting too because there's so many like new games coming out. So we talked, I don't know, I don't remember exactly what it was, but we talked about the Super Mario 64 ray tracing when they were starting to do that. Do you remember?
Yes, we did.
They're trying to make that entire project for the entire game ray tracing.
It's impressive in scope, but like, that's going to be, because it's also on PC. It's going to be, I believe, running at 4K. They also have new assets coming in for textures, so it's going to be the definitive version of Super Mario 64 by kind of a long shot. I'm sure Nintendo's not pleased about that because they just released a $60 version of Super Mario 64 that is still at 4:3 ratio.
Which is still for sale at retailers for some reason, even though they said it was a limited release.
Yeah.
Which is just weird. Not like I bought a bunch to resell or anything. I just thought it was funny that they were like, yeah, we'll sell it through March and then we'll not, maybe.
Yeah.
Perhaps. We'll see.
And that package, I don't think is a particularly good value. So I could see why retailers have stock just hanging around.
Yeah, that's true. So the video on ray tracing, let me see if I can kind of let you guys know where to find it. There's a pretty long YouTube video from Digital Foundry. And it's a pretty long video. 35 minutes or so of play from Super Mario 64. And the thing that I noticed the most in this is the textures look better, and a lot of it is just like how the shadows show up, so you can kind of see what's going on and stuff. But the main difference is the like character modeling is so incredible, like HD. They upgraded basically the character modeling to look like something out of like Super Mario Odyssey. So having that super high res, nice looking character model inside kind of a polygonal space, it works.
Yeah.
Not everything is fully updated, but it definitely works and it looks really nice.
One of the odd things about Super Mario 64 is that because the game was running on 4:3 CRTs, what nobody realizes that Mario's model actually goes to this like low res mode when it's outside of a certain distance from the camera, but you can't perceive that because the resolution of the monitor you're looking at is not high enough to observe that detail. But I think with this one they changed that to keep his high res model no matter how far away Mario is, because now you're looking at 4K screens, not. I mean, that's literally like, what, 10,000 times the resolution of a CRT?
Give or take. Yeah. What's the math on that? That's funny.
I think that's right. I think it is 10,000.
Is it really?
I think
that's
so.
insane.
Or maybe it's
but
1,000.
monitors, monitors and stuff have way more pixels too. So it's like, it's not like you have a screen that is that much bigger. So it's just really interesting how it all works with our eyes and stuff, and what we can perceive and what we can't.
It'd be incredible to see someday. It'll never happen because like nobody makes CRTs anymore. Nobody makes tube televisions. But it would be amazing to see a tube television running at a high resolution like 4K. Because there was something about a tube television that, because the way that worked is like shooting like beams of light at these phosphors, and the way the phosphors would glow and kind of blend into each other, that kind of made it made those old graphics, those old 240p graphics, really look gorgeous, and it still does. But I wonder what that would look like at a high resolution like 4K, because you wouldn't see individual pixels. You would just see like the glowing color. Like I don't know. I'd love to see what it looks like. I bet it would look really good. I mean, obviously it's not going to happen, so you'll never know. But
all I can think about is how heavy that TV would be.
Yeah. Can you imagine a 65-inch tube television?
The viewing angles are spectacular. Yeah.
But it weighs 700 pounds. And it's 8 feet deep.
I remember just growing up and having a couple of friends that had the big, like, what are they called? ZRTs or the whatever
DLP?
the DLP, like
the
big like 40, 50-inch DLP TVs.
Yeah.
And they had those really shitty viewing angles. If you weren't like directly in front of it, it was like it's like a privacy filter for your phone, but you know.
All the projection TVs, all those rear projected TVs sucked from the get-go. They sucked always. Like all of them always sucked. And like people will say, "Oh, well, this one wasn't so bad." No, it sucked. You're just no. It did suck. Like the front projection ones were cool.
Yeah. I think I was in the what was it? 2006 or 2000. Yeah, 2006. I was in the market. Like I was making good money. I was single.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I want to go buy a nice TV.
Dangerous combination right there. I was making good money. I was single. So I bought a jet ski.
I mean, good is relative. Like nowadays, if I was making, I was probably making about the same as I am now, but I was single and it was 2006.
Yeah.
So I go to Circuit City and I had done some research and I was like, it's either I'm going to get a plasma or I'm going to get a DLP.
Uh-huh.
So they had those like Zenith or whatever they had and Sony DLPs. Like they looked really good right in front of them. But just the viewing angles were not great and stuff. And then plasmas, the problems were burn-in and they're also pretty heavy and stuff like that. But I ended up getting a plasma and I still have it. It's the only TV that I own that has S-Video, AV in and out, HDMI, and it's 720p. So it doesn't look horrible for retro stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I bought a I bought a projection TV, a rear projection TV. It was my first like high definition screen. I think it did 1080i as its highest resolution. And I think within the year, I was trying to get rid of it and buy a plasma. Like it was good for like very specific circumstances. Actually, for movies, it was great. But for video games, it sucked. And like I was afraid of the burn-in issue with plasma. But once I got a plasma, I never experienced any burn-in issues with plasma. I mean, I was a plasma user for, I don't know, over a decade, I would guess. Maybe about a decade.
Yeah, you got to leave that screen on for a long time to have any issues with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they had all like sorts of like, they would jitter the image around and do all sorts of like, I mean, OLEDs do the same stuff now, right? It's like my OLED today, I was watching YouTube this morning while I was having my cup of coffee. And when I turned it off, it said to me, we're going to run like a, pixel refresher. So don't turn on your TV for like 10 minutes or whatever. I'm like, all right.
Interesting.
Yeah. I love OLED TVs. I use an OLED TV as my main monitor at my desk here.
Right.
And I love it.
Nice. I didn't know that they had issues with burn-in and whatnot.
OLED, yes. I mean, same issues plasma. Same issues as CRTs. CRTs had issues with burn-in.
So the next piece of news, and I mean, it's kind of interesting if you're into super technical stuff, but there was a rare SNES SA1 demo cart that was found and shared. And I found the link on Nintendo Life, but there's a Patreon post. Basically, who is this? Vitor Villelas Laboratory. And it's basically a demo dump from a Super Nintendo cartridge. And basically what this cartridge showed was the difference between, like the chips that they had in Star Fox and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it was like a technical demo showing the difference between the original kind of chips and the newer ones that they were coming out with, and like what you could display and how many different figures on the screen you could have and what motions and speed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's literally just a technical demo that they showed in like a sorry, in like in-house kind of meeting scenario.
That's
It's really
interesting.
Yeah.
So
It's just
for people who don't know, the Super Nintendo and the NES too, you could actually enhance the console's capabilities by putting enhancement chips in the cartridges. And that, I think the FX chip is probably the most famous one in Star Fox, right?
Mhm.
That gave the console 3D renders, right? It's like that's the most. But the SA1 chip, which was used in a few games, it was Super Mario 2, one of them. Yoshi's Island, was that one of them?
I'm not sure. I don't know that. It was, I think Donkey Kong might have been one.
Donkey Kong, yeah,
Donkey
definitely
Kong
Donkey
Country.
Kong was one of them. But yeah, there was a bunch of games that had these enhanced. There were cartridges with enhanced chips in them that would actually add capabilities to the Super Nintendo. I think that it's something that you can't really do anymore because you don't actually put a cartridge into a console, right? It's like you're just downloading software or whatever. But it's
Mhm.
kind of the weird oddities. It's also one of the strange things about emulating those old consoles is that you have to emulate the console, but then you actually have to emulate all those enhancement chips as well to make the games run correctly. But
I
yeah,
mean, this is basically one of the reasons why old NES and Super Nintendo and N64 games were so expensive. Maybe
yes,
not N64, but
N64
just
games were expensive too. Yeah,
yeah, but I mean, they didn't have the built-in enhancement chip. They had the memory, they had the expansion pack built in that you put. That was like the
yeah,
beginning of putting it on the system side so that the games didn't have to worry about it, which
yeah,
efficiency-wise was a way smarter thing to do.
yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, I remember the Strider for the Genesis, which was an early Genesis game, was $80, and that was in the early '90s, right? So imagine that. Imagine if a game came out at $80 right now, how the gaming public would react to it. Especially a game like Strider that you could beat legitimately in one day of ownership.
I
Because
wonder what the
there's like 8 levels that you can just figure out how to beat.
right. Yeah, that's crazy. I know, like, especially, games like Chrono Trigger and stuff were like $80 and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Probably Earthbound too. But it's interesting. It would be interesting to know, like, percentage wise, how much was spent on like manufacturing at that point. It's way higher then than it is now,
Yeah.
and the margins are probably similar,
Well,
even
they're
though games are
selling
a little
a
bit cheaper now.
ton less copies too.
Right.
Average. Obviously, games like Super Mario 3 were selling like tens of
Millions.
millions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like the install base of those older consoles was smaller than.
Mhm.
Well, I don't know. Is that true? Actually, was the install base of like the Super Nintendo and the Genesis a lot smaller than of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One?
Well, smaller than like PlayStation 2 and the Wii and Switch and all that stuff, but there's literally that list, right?
Yeah.
Um, game console rankings in sales. It's like a Wikipedia. There it is. It's the best-selling consoles. NES and Super Nintendo are pretty low on the list. Yeah, Xbox One had more sales than Super Nintendo N64. But
Wow.
just under. Yeah, so NES is the highest selling of the originals with 62 million.
Yeah.
And then Super Nintendo had just under 50, and 64 had like 33 million. And Genesis had about 30. Original Xbox had 24. GameCube had 22-ish. And pretty much anything newer. So Xbox 360 had 84 million. Switch is already at 84 million.
Wow.
PlayStation 3, Wii, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 2 are all higher. A lot of actually the Nintendo handhelds outsold all of the consoles. 3DS, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Game Boy, and DS all outsold all of the hardware consoles.
Those don't count though, because everybody has like had 3 of those.
I know, but it's just interesting.
It's you only had one Super Nintendo the entire time the Super Nintendo was alive, but you had like 3 3DSs.
There was the NES or the SNES Junior, but it came out like way late.
Yeah, but you didn't buy one.
No,
you already had a Super Nintendo.
Yeah, there was no reason to buy another one. It was just a smaller form factor.
But you had 4 Game Boys.
Yeah, I had like 3. Yeah, because they all played
mobile
different
consoles
games.
Don't count.
Yeah.
I mean, so that makes sense, but also the price of game development, like that's at least what they tell us, right? It makes sense that they tell us that.
Yeah.
But the price of game development has gone up as well.
Yeah.
But they don't. I mean, I don't know what the ratio of digital downloads compared to retail bought copies is, but I bet it hit 50-50 at some point recently, if not a while ago. And if you think about that, like they don't have to print the game, they don't have to ship the game, they don't have to pay for retail space. Like the amount of savings on that has got to be huge. I know they're paying Sony and Microsoft a certain percentage just to be on the store and Steam and all that. But still, like they're not paying for all the logistics to actually getting the game out there. I mean,
yeah.
But games have not gone up in price in 30 years.
Yeah.
Everything else has gone up in price.
Companies now are getting a lot more money on the continuous content, the DLCs, the
That's true.
Cosmetic stuff. Like the companies aren't making nearly as much of a margin on the actual game sales. It's almost everything after, unless it's like a single player game. But even those have DLCs.
If you could buy a game, if you had the option to buy a game that was completely complete, but it cost $200, or you could buy the $60 version of the game that had all sorts of microtransactions and DLCs that were coming, which version would you get?
I would get the cheaper version.
Yeah.
Because you say the thing is, everybody's argument about like, you need to sell the complete game when people get really upset about that. I'm like, you're just not giving yourself as much content. Like, when a company is flexible enough to like, hey, we have this game and we have 2 DLCs planned, and it's basically going to be like, however those do dictates if we continue development.
Yeah.
But in a game, like if it was $200, like you have to do all of that and all that betting ahead of time. Like that's such a hard on the development side. That would be a really hard estimate and bet for them. And the odds of them succeeding,
too.
Yeah, the odds of them succeeding with a model like that is 0. Because nobody's going to buy a $200 game.
You'd be super mad if you bought $200 version of Anthem.
Probably was one. Wasn't there a collector's version somewhere?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like that's one of the refreshing parts about playing retro games is that you get the whole game in one cartridge, right? And like there's no microtransactions. There's nobody constantly asking you to say, "Hey, would you like this awesome armor? Would you like this like cool skin for your new weapon? Like just pay an extra $3, pay an extra $7, pay an extra $3." Like on and on and on, just constantly like nickel and diming you. When you bought Hakune, or when you bought any game on the Super NES or Genesis or an N64 or even PlayStation, like the game, you got a complete game that was not bug free by any means, but like you paid up front for the game, and then you were free to enjoy it at your own pace and how you wanted to. It's one of the frustrating things about gaming for me now.
I see your point, but I mean, you have to consider the replayability of games back then versus now. You know, if you were decent at a game and a lot of games were harder, they manufactured replayability in the early games just by making stuff difficult. It took a lot longer to beat things, therefore you spent more hours on it. But if you were decent at a game and you could get through it in one sitting, like how many games took longer than 10 hours in one playthrough? If even that, a lot of the NES games, a lot of the SNES and NES games took under 5 if you were like if you could play it all the way through.
A lot of them took under an hour.
Yeah.
Like if you're like, actually good at the game, like if you could complete it like without dying, under an hour.
Yeah. So it's just a completely different wheelhouse. I mean,
the
way that games work now, if a game has less than 20 hours of gameplay now, it's considered a flop. Like except for maybe a game like God of War or something. But even then there's like extra missions, there's extra things to collect, triumphs, achievements, all that stuff too that's like added on content. So it's time versus money spent.
There was a narrative a few years ago in the games press that single player games were dead. I think it was like everything's going to be multiplayer. Everything's going to be massively multiplayer. You're going to be able to jump into games with your friends. Every game is going to be with your friends. I think that a lot of that was based off of Destiny's success. You know, like things like Division and Anthem were coming out and looking like there's a lot of interest. I think that narrative died with the success of like games like God of War and, well, frankly, other PlayStation 4 first party
Spider-Man
titles.
and
Spider-Man, Horizon Zero Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really concerning because not all of my game time do I want to spend with people. You know, sometimes game time is like, I just want to be alone. I just want to relax and not have to worry about social, you know, kind of being sociable. I just want to shut it down.
Sure. I don't think that single player games will die at any point, but I think the requirement for a single player game now is so much different than it was back in the day. If you're paying $60 for a single player experience now, that's probably under 20 hours, let's be honest. It needs to be an experience that is so like emotionally charged for you. Like you have to be connected to it emotionally, you have to be connected to it physically. Like something about it has to connect with you. Like God of War, the story is incredible. Horizon Zero Dawn, it's just like the experience, the world, all that stuff. Spider-Man, you know, the gameplay is incredible and all that stuff.
Yeah.
If any of those are subpar, then it's not going to be successful. Like it's just, it has different requirements. If you have a multiplayer game or a competitive game or something like that, it doesn't have to be as polished in that way because like you're playing with your friends, you're laughing with them. You're in the competitive part where you're going against other players, and it's just the replayability of the different. Every time you load into the game is different because everybody plays differently and stuff. So it's just a matter of what type of game it is and what kind of experience you want. And so, you know, retro games, those single player experiences, it was all because everything we played was new. Everything we played was an experience we've never had before.
That's
you know,
true.
it's a lot harder.
That's a good point.
A lot harder for us to get that now with new games.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know. Those retro games still hold up though, even though they're not new anymore. There's some of them don't hold up. We'll talk about that a little later. But some of them do. You know, some of them.
Yeah.
Like to me, Gaiden is a game that's going to be fun till the day I die. It's just the movement, the speed at which everything comes at you, the music, the theme of it, like everything is just so cool and so fun that it'll just always be fun, even though the game, you know, is on a console from 1984. You know, it doesn't matter.
Let me ask this question:
it's fun as hell.
Would you still believe that fact if Ninja Gaiden was not nearly as difficult?
Yeah, I would love a version of
you
Ninja
just kind of
Gaiden that wasn't as difficult. I can't beat Ninja Gaiden. Like
I think that's part of your like fervor, you know, like there's
because I only beat it up. I play like the first 4 levels and then I turn it off. I would love to be able to beat it.
You don't in the back of your head have this magical thought, maybe this time I'll get a little further.
Maybe. I don't
know.
think that's part of my love
Could be
for it
reaching.
though. My love for it is the movement, the jumping,
Yeah.
how good the jumping feels, how good the sword feels to slash. Like, and it just like it just feels right. And like
It does.
feel
It
is like
feels
a
great.
cop-out answer for like describing the good parts of gameplay. But man, that
Everything feels satisfying.
It feels so good.
Yeah, I agree with you.
What the hell started that?
Well, we went down the SNES.
Oh yeah,
Chips
SNES, SA. That's how we feel about the SA1 demo. This Ninja
In
Gaiden feels
conclusion,
good.
on the whole, it feels good. Yeah. All right. So the next piece: Zombies Ate My Neighbors and Ghoul Patrol. That's hard to say. Ghoul Patrol. I want to say Ghoul Patrol.
Yeah,
Ghoul Patrol.
yeah, that is hard to
Coming to most platforms on June 29th. So they're doing it's the original. I'm pretty sure it's the original version. It's basically the ROMs
It's just a port.
are coming to digital stores on June 29th on
That's
most
awesome.
consoles like Switch, PS5, Xbox, Steam. Like it was like everything. I think even Stadia, maybe. I can't remember. It felt like everything. Insane.
Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a legitly fun game still, and if you can play it 2-player, I don't know if there's gonna be an online 2-player version of this, like that you could play like somebody online. It's a really fun 2-player game.
So that's a good question. I want to Google that. And Ghoul Patrol is the successor to Zombie Ate My Neighbors, and Ghoul Patrol is also a very expensive cart. It's like a $200+ cart, so it's not like something you can just go pick up.
No.
Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a lot more kind of accessible price.
It's still kind of expensive though, isn't it?
It's like $30 or $40.
Oh, okay, that's not bad. But $14.99 to play on a modern console, that's awesome. So I'm telling you, like legit, Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a fun game to play.
Yeah, they're kind of top down. How would you describe it? It's like a top down, not a shmup, but it's like
somewhat close to a shmup though.
Yeah, I think it just has local two-player co-op for both of them. Okay. So couch co-op.
Well, still, it's a fun game for $14.99. It's nice to see it get a little love in the modern age. Yep. Oh, like whenever I see something like this, I'm always like, I hope everybody like buys a ton of these, and it tells the developer like or the publisher, hey, maybe we should make another one of these. You know, like a new one, right? Because people are still like really interested in this.
Did you see? I don't know, it was a few hours ago. I don't know if it was an official tweet or not. Somebody said, I'm pretty sure it was a bait tweet to get responses, but it was like Nintendo says that they're going to announce two out of the games on this list at E3 that they're going to bring forward. And let me see if I can find it. I'm like 90% sure it was a bait tweet, but it has like Punch Out, Mother, Chibi Robo, F-Zero, Pilot Wings, Golden Sun, Mega Man Soccer. That's how I knew that this was a bait tweet. I was like, they're not going to fucking remake Mega Man Soccer. Excite Bike was on there, Wario Land, which they already have.
How would you remake Excite Bike? That
well, they have Excite Bike 64. That was actually quite fun.
Okay, all right.
Did you ever play Excite Bike 64?
No.
It was behind the driver, of the bike.
Like a 3D.
Yeah. It wasn't it wasn't a racing game. It was like, you had dirt tracks and it was basically think of Excite Bike but 3D. I think it was kind of a mix of a racing game, and I don't think there was really much tricks involved. I mean, the original Excite Bike didn't either, but it was more about doing like the off-road dirt bike kind of race competitions. It was fun.
Excite Bike was one of the first games I owned for the NES, and I loved it at the time. But going back to it, it's not a good game. It's not. Yeah, it's not a particularly fun game to go back to now. Like it doesn't hold up very well.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's definitely some gems though in the list you just said.
Yeah. There's a few others too, but some of these have like been redone recently. Like, Kid Icarus has a 3DS version.
Yeah, but you
TV
need like
Robo
a
has a 3DS
special
version.
add-on controller for your 3DS.
Oh, for the Kid Icarus, it had that little stand thing, right?
Had like a separate thumbstick on the right side.
Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I thought that was interesting. Last piece of information that was actually within the last week that I added today: Mega Man: The Wily Wars is getting a physical reprint. It was the Genesis game that originally only had a European version. So now, if you're in the States and you missed out on the original, $69.99. Pre-orders are open now.
Yeah, I'm gonna order this,
on
Jay. This is cool. It's a
Yeah.
real Genesis cartridge, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
well, it's real in that it works in a Genesis, I suppose.
Right.
It's as real as a modern Genesis game can be. It comes in a Genesis box. The cartridge is like kind of a see-through blue. It's kind of a quirky game. I like Mega Man. I don't love Mega Man, but this one's kind of neat, and it's bound to be a collector's item in the future.
Pretty cool. I'm on the. I mean, $70 is not a bad price. It's available in the U.S. at Castlemania and Limited Run, and then a bunch of places in Europe.
Yeah.
But it has like art books. It has cards. It has a poster, a postcard. Pretty cool package. It seems like.
I'm going to send you a postcard of the Wily Wars.
It says hi.
Just a picture of Mega Man's helmet and boots.
So actually, I'm gonna piggyback on this and mention something because it's not really part of pickups, but Mega Man 4 for Game Boy. Okay, I have a complete unboxed copy, that's its own story about how I still have that. But I went to the retro game store and they had 2 copies for $100 each, and I looked them up and they're going for more than that on eBay, like 150 to 200. So I used some of my credit to buy it with the intent to resell the cartridge only copy, just to kind of like funnel the stuff.
Yeah.
I listed it on eBay and I got a message from a guy that's like, what's your lowest price? And I kind of have something that I need you to do for me. He's like, I'm going to send you an overnight FedEx label because I need this ASAP. So just give me your lowest price. I'm like, all right. And I gave him the lowest price and he sent me the thing and he's like, I need it for a movie that we're shooting. I was like, oh? He's like, yeah, literally he was in Canada and he was like $40 or $50 shipping label. And I asked him what movie it was for. And he said it was for the new Transformers movie.
What? They're making a new Transformers
You're
movie?
muted.
I am? I don't think I'm muted for the stream. Stream, am I muted? Oh, boy.
Briar muted on stream? Hold on.
No, I'm not muted on stream.
Do you see it in Discord that you're muted?
No. Oh, no. Oh, God. Now it's just going awfully wrong.
Yeah.
Just everything's just getting worse by the second.
That was weird. All right, we're good.
Are we good? We're not that good. Okay, now we're good. That was weird.
Bizarre.
Anyhow, so there's going to be Mega Man 4 for the Game Boy in the new Transformers movie, which is being shot in Canada, and we've got the inside tip via JSniperton.
It's supposed to come out next summer. So if you see Mega Man 4, the cartridge, it was a mint cartridge. If you see that in the movie, that was in my possession for like a week.
A week. I hope it does show up in the.
That'd be super cool. I'd geek out about it.
I would too, man. That's awesome.
Thought it was related. We were talking about Mega Man.
Oh. Yeah. Should we talk about some Resident Evil?
Sure. I have a confession to make. I did not play it.
You didn't even boot it up just to see what it looked like.
I didn't even boot it up.
Why is that? Why is that?
I I don't know the right word for it. I just really don't like Resident Evil.
Have you ever played any of them?
Yeah, I played Resident Evil 7 quite a bit for charity. I played Resident Evil 2 quite a bit for charity, and just the jump scares. I know
the new Resident Evil 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit. The jump scares and just kind of I don't like that type of adrenaline rush. I'm not a horror. I don't like scary movies. I don't like roller coasters. I don't like being frightened generally.
Yeah.
It's just not fun for me.
Resident Evil 7 is I think the scariest Resident Evil, kind of by a long shot.
It was terrifying.
I played it in VR, and the only reason I could get through it was because I played it live and I had chat kind of like to talk to.
Man.
You know, like,
yeah.
But if I was in a room alone playing that, I don't think I would have played it.
Yeah, no.
Resident Evil 1, it was scary in the 90s, but it's not scary now.
I watched a bunch of video on it.
Yeah. In the day, there were some scary moments, and they were only jump scares. Like, there is the very famous moment where you're kind of walking through a hallway and a zombie dog busts through like the glass window and confronts you, and it's a very like heart-pounding moment because honestly, games didn't do that at the time. Resident Evil there were definitely horror games before, but nothing that was quite as multimedia complex as Resident Evil on the PlayStation with, voices and FMV. But Resident Evil, it wasn't just about being scary. There was also like a B-movie-ness to it. Like that kind of like a scary movie, but it's on Cinemax. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it did. One of the facts was it holds a Guinness World Record for worst game dialogue ever.
I think that's probably not fair. I think you could probably find worse than Resident Evil.
I don't know. I did in the video that I watched. It was quite just underwhelming dialogue.
Yeah, underwhelming, but worst ever. I mean, let's not forget like the Philips CDI.
Yeah. Oh no, let's go this way. We need to escape.
Yeah. I mean, just okay, so you start off when you play Resident Evil, you start off with the opening cutscene, which is live action, obviously filmed in front of a green screen, and it is as cheesy as possible. It's got live actors for the characters that you're going to be seeing in game that have no relation to those to those characters you're going to be seeing and playing with. They don't look like them. They don't act like them. There's no relationship there. It's just they must have filmed that like totally separately of the people making the game. But it's awesome in its own special way.
I went to the local improv to see if somebody would be interested in.
Yeah, maybe.
Game.
But then you start the game, and it's like that first. It's that first Resident Evil experience. You're in a mansion. There's obviously zombies in it. There's this kind of higher kind of conspiracy of the Umbrella Corporation that started this zombie outbreak in Raccoon City, and it sets the formula. It sets the standard for what Resident Evil was going to be. Successful Resident Evil was going to be in the future. We've got puzzles that are, basically collect a thing, bring it to another thing to unlock a room. We've got weapons that are going to get found and upgraded as we progress. We're going to have like a mansion to explore. Like the basics for the Resident Evil, for the survival horror genre, were formed in Resident Evil. It's a game that formed its own genre, right? Like it's one of those, like, in the way that Super Mario Brothers formed its own genre, the way that Doom formed its own genre. I think Resident Evil is one of those, right? It created the genre of survival horror, right? And right. I don't think it did it it didn't do it in like a way, like a gameplay, like a brand new way of playing a video game like Shigeru Miyamoto did in Super Mario Brothers, or the way Doom did it, but it did do it. and I think it deserves a lot of credit for that. That all being said, it's a hard game to go back to because it was a PlayStation 1 game. 3D movement was not figured out yet. It used those tank controls. I remember what game came out recently that everybody was saying used 3D tank controls. It came out on like the Xbox. It was this year, very early this year. Anyhow, this game, wherever your character is pointing, you walk forward by pushing up on the D-pad. They came out with a director's cut later that used the analog sticks, but the original version of the game only used the D-pad controller on the original PlayStation. And then to turn your character, like to pivot, you would hit left or right. And to back up, you would hit down. That works when you're all walking straight ahead. But once your character is walking across the screen, like you really are like... your brain has to really do some interpretation. And then every room you walk into is a fixed camera angle. So imagine you're looking at like security cam in like the corner of the wall of the camera or of the room, and you're looking down on this room. But when you walk around a corner, the perspective changes. So where your character is pointing changes, which means that the control that you're inputting is changing. So it can be very confusing, and it's very slow. So that actually adds to the chaos and to the horror aspect of the game, is that your character is slow. It's clumsy to control. So that adds to like the immediacy of like, oh my God, this zombie's coming at me, or this zombie alligator is coming at me, and I've got to unload like 7 guns worth of ammunition into it, but I can barely really maneuver this character. I don't know. The game, it's hard to go back to, but at the time in the late 90s, it was, I think, one of the most influential games to come out of that time. I mean, they're still making these,
Right. You're describing the movement, and all I can think of is that you have an RC car controller.
Yeah.
And you're having to control it that way. And what is the deal with the guns in Resident Evil? It's the same with like the modern ones, but you have like, you're like, I have 21 bullets that might kill one zombie. Like it's just the pellet guns. What is that?
I mean, it's to add to the suspense, to add to the horror of it. It's like, you're not a superhero in this scenario. You are very much, at risk. I think that's really a common thing with all survival horror games, is that you are very much at risk of getting killed. You're not some kind of superhero badass coming through here and just like blowing shit up like Serious Sam or the Master Chief. You're just a person in this awful scenario, and like, you've got what usually, though, I will say this, usually with most of these games, by about halfway through is that you've built up an inventory of, machine guns and rocket launchers and shit like that it almost becomes an action game for the last half of the game. Usually the scariest parts of Resident Evil games are at the beginning, when you are very vulnerable. You don't have a lot of powerful weapons. I think Resident Evil 7 was very much like that, right? It's like the most scariest parts of Resident Evil 7 were probably in the first 3 hours, 4 hours. Once you got to the end of that game and you were on like that ship, like it's basically an action game at that point.
Yeah.
I think
there were some
jump
scares when you're like fighting the final boss and stuff, when she's a spider and all that crap. But I'm wondering, as we're talking through the kind of the mechanics of Resident Evil, it seems like not a lot has changed in the way of like, you go into one room to get a key so that you can go across the thing to open a door, and that gives you a clue to another thing. And it almost kind of reminds me of like Zelda.
Sure.
Like, think Link to the Past or something, where there's a lot of, it's like almost like a dungeon crawler, but you're in a house, but now there's the survival aspect to it where you have to get out from all these scary, horrible things.
Yeah. To be honest with you, Jay, is I never thought of like the comparison to Zelda, but like I remember being a kid and being very terrified in Zelda that I was, coming against a room full of who knows what. I have I have a key and like a heart and a half. Hell, a heart and a half. The thing is beeping at me, telling me that I'm about to die. It's fucking terrifying.
That beep, dude. Oh man.
Yeah.
Even now, because I played that game for the first time all the way through recently. And
The first Zelda?
No, Link to the Past.
Link to the Past?
I've never beat the first Zelda. Like Link to the Past, I'm pretty sure it's the first Zelda game I've ever fully beat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good game to start with.
It sure is. I think it's a goddamn classic game. Yeah, I don't know. Resident Evil, it's got a lot of annoyances that it don't feel modern. Like the inventory system, the fact that you have to pick up ribbons to use on the typewriters in order to save your game, which limits the amount of saved games you can have in a playthrough. So you're constantly like balancing, like, should I save my game now or should I save this ribbon? But I don't know what's around that next corner. I don't know. In a way, it's an annoyance, but in another way, it really adds to the suspense and to the, I think it achieves its goal of being scary. It does that through game mechanics. It does that through theme. It doesn't do it through voice acting. But I think it's successful. And I think that series, it got a lot better, but I think that the first one really did a great job at like, here is a new thing and it can be successful. I remember at the time, me and my friends were huddled around the TV, passing the controller around, and we were all transfixed by it. And when shit happened, 4 dudes in a room yelped. Like it was real. And it was awesome. So cool. I'll always love the game, but it doesn't hold up particularly well.
I feel like it'd be a lot more fun in a group setting like that. It's almost like if you go watch a horror movie by yourself, it's a completely different experience than if you watch with a bunch of friends and you're just laughing at some of the ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Of the scary. Like watching The Ring. I remember, because I don't like horror scary movies, but we watched The Ring with a bunch of my buddies in high school, and it was that kind of thing. It was just so like ridiculous in some of the scary stuff that we were just like cracking up and whatnot.
Yeah.
It also helped kind of dissipate the fear a little bit.
Yeah. The Ring is a scary ass movie.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like games nowadays should take more advantage of the intrinsic gameplay modifier that is the save point. Because in most games now, either it auto saves at any like new scene or checkpoint or whatever. You know what I mean? Or you can just pause and save at any point.
I get you, but I hate it so much when I just want to like go and, dinner's ready. I want to just be able to get up and go eat dinner. I don't want to be like, I don't want a game to like, once you have like a save system where I can't save the game whenever I want to, and I have to like get to a part, now I have to fit that game into my life. Whereas, whereas with a game that I can just save when I'm ready to save, I can just be like, okay, I'm going to play as much of this as I want. And then I'm going to go to bed, or I'm going to go eat dinner, or I'm going to go spend some time with my family, or, I can just stand up and come back to. I hate it when I have to I have to get to this certain point before I can save. Well, I've got to turn it off because I've got this thing to do, and now I'm gonna have to replay through that. I might never come back to this game.
yeah. That happened to me a lot as a kid too, to be honest. So, but it's just interesting, like if there was a way, my brain goes, okay, that's a creative problem. How could they solve that and still have kind of a, where they can only have so many saves? Maybe you have a pool of saves that you can use at any point or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or you can earn new saves or something like that.
Yeah.
Or you can pay for them through microtransactions.
Oh, that's a great idea, Jay.
Can you imagine?
I bet a game has done it. Has a game ever done it? I bet it's happened. Honestly.
Oh man,
I bet it's happened.
That is a pretty shady business practice, but it'd be pretty funny.
Has a game ever done that?
paid for saves. While he's doing that, we'll go over some of the facts of Resident Evil that I found out. So it was called Biohazard in Japan, like originally, and they ended up coming out with a sequel. One of the sequels is called Biohazard, right? It's just interesting that was basically the name, and so they were trying to figure out what the name should be on the American side, and Resident Evil was actually the product of a company-wide contest for in Capcom, and not a whole lot of people were very happy with Resident Evil, but I think they just chose it. Like, I don't know. What would you name Resident Evil?
It doesn't make any sense. The two words don't go together, right? Like, it doesn't make any
Resident
sense.
was supposed to be kind of a look into, there's a lot of houses that they use, resident house.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like the evil of the house.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. So
I wish they had just left it Biohazard, to be honest with you. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't have been as popular, though, if it didn't have kind of a mysterious name of two words that don't go together.
I think the issue was that there was like copyright stuff that they were
already a
trying to.
Biohazard?
There was like a song or something. Like there was stuff out back in the day that was called Biohazard in the US.
Yeah.
So they were just trying to get aroround that.
I think they could have called it Master of Unlocking. Google search was not kind to me there. It came up with bullshit, so.
He's gone the rabbit hole. He's looking at porn now.
Yeah, basically.
Resident Evil porn. I bet you it exists.
Oh yeah.
We were talking about. He's like, I've already seen it.
I downloaded it.
I bookmarked it. Yeah,
yeah.
It's on my Zune.
I burned it to a DVD.
It's on VHS. So it is credited with defining the survival horror genre, as Briar was kind of talking about earlier. And for those that are into horror stuff, if you didn't know, a lot of the backdrops specifically were inspired by Kubrick's The Shining. If you think about the houses and the hallways and kind of the camera angles and stuff that Kubrick used, which I was like, I never watched The Shining, but I've seen images and clips and stuff, and I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Did you ever play it on Saturn?
No. I didn't have a Saturn when the Saturn was like a relevant console. If it was it ever a relevant console? I don't know. Not in America.
Yeah, newly out.
But no, I played the PS1 version.
There's a Saturn port that has a bunch of extras that we're not seeing in the PS1 version. I don't know if they ever brought those extras over. I think they brought some of them over, like in the director's cut or one of the updates or something like that, but I don't think everything was brought over from the Saturn port, which is interesting. The original plans for the first Resident Evil was to have 2-player co-op and 2 additional characters to play, but they couldn't do it due to hardware limitations. That would have been, you were talking about playing with your friends in a room. That would have been fun.
I don't know. I don't know if it would have been as successful like as a horror game, because part of the issue is that you are like the lone person in this. You're alone, right? It's like if there were 2 of you, I don't know if it would have really achieved the same level of tension. But I kind of forgot that you can pick 2 characters at the beginning. Like you can pick from 2 characters. I kind of forgot to mention that when we were talking about it. And I thought that was a really cool thing, because then you could play the game over again as the other character, and you'd actually see things kind of you'd go to the same places and see the same things, but from like a different viewpoint, and things would happen in a different order and all that, which is cool. And they expanded upon that in future games.
Still do that stuff. What was I going to say? Oh, didn't Resident Evil 5 have co-op? I remember on the 360.
Yeah.
And I tried it, and it felt like a much different game, because it was like a lot of the landscapes were more open.
Yeah, I think 5 and 6 really went down like kind of an action Gears of War kind of flavor. And I think that a lot of people dug it, but a lot of Resident Evil like diehard fans didn't really like that, and that's kind of why the reaction. I think 7 was like a snap back, like, and that's why 7 is so terrifying. Is because they really came back to like, all right,
we got to bring it back strong.
Let's make a fucking scary ass video game, and they achieved it, I think.
Yeah. It was originally gonna be, the first one was originally gonna be a first person as well. What was the first person perspective Resident Evil? Do you know?
I think it was 7.
Was it 7?
No, because there were like offshoots. So like I think the main games like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 were all third person, but there was like light gun games, and there were like side games in the Resident Evil universe that I'm not as familiar with because there's so many of them, and frankly, most of them were garbage, so I'd never paid attention to most of them. But I bet some of those, or at least one of those, was in first person at some point. Even a light gun game is technically in first person, right?
Yeah, it's true.
But 7 was the first mainline one.
Right. The last piece of kind of notes that I wrote down here was that there was a Game Boy title, like original Game Boy title, that was 90% complete before it was scrapped. And you can actually find the ROM online. It's a straight port of Resident Evil 1 for Game Boy.
I didn't know that this had never been released. I've actually played this on the Mister. I saw it on my Mister when I downloaded, when I ripped all my original Game Boy games straight from the cartridges that I own.
Yeah, all the ones that don't exist.
But I didn't realize that this had never come out. And when I played it, I was like, oh, this is actually crazy. I don't want to play it, but it's kind of impressive.
Yeah, they had Resident Evil Gaiden, which is a pretty rare Game Boy Color game, but yeah, this was the first. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. Resident Evil 1 is an interesting game. It's not necessarily it's not easy to go back to. There's a remake for it on the GameCube that I think is probably easier to go back to. There it is, right there. It's got much better graphics. It's still 4x3, but it's a much better game. So if you're watching the YouTube, anybody who's listening to the audio only version, Jay owns a copy. He was just showing it on the screen.
Yeah, it's funny. I own that, and then I own the director's cut for PlayStation, and that's what I got of the first one, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny they didn't do Resident Evil 1 in like the modern era. They went back to 2, but they didn't go back all the way back to 1. And I wonder if that's because they had done it on the GameCube and they figure that's recent enough. Did they ever port that game to the Wii?
Like on the Virtual Console?
No, just a lot of GameCube games they just put on the Wii. You
could play that
as
on
well.
the Wii.
Yeah, but
you could play it on
a lot of games like Resident Evil 4, they made a console, they made the version for the GameCube, and they ported it officially to the Wii with widescreen support and everything.
I don't think they did.
No.
But I'm just double checking here. PlayStation, Saturn, GameCube, and that's it. There's a 10th anniversary collection, and then there's Resident Evil 0, which I don't really even understand what that is.
Resident Evil 0, I think, is it's like a prequel almost.
Okay, yeah.
Also a GameCube game, right?
Yep. So yeah, they have the 10th anniversary collection, which it's like a box set almost. That's quite expensive. It's got all the GameCube games. Yep. That's
Pickups?
That. Pickups is long.
All right.
I have to tell y'all, there's even some stuff that I didn't put in this bin. Like I got a mint in box Wii. It's funny. I sold my Wii that I had the box for, and I bought a mint in box Wii. I don't know. I'm weird. But yeah. So one thing I did do this time is I researched all the games a little bit so I can at least comment on what type of game it is and if the reviews were favorable or not. Most of which were not. Kind of how a lot of these rare games go, or expensive ones, is they're just not great games. All right. So this one is not really a popular game, but this is probably the most recent pickup of mine. F1 Race for Game Boy.
Oh, what's with the box?
It has the 4-player adapter in it.
Oh, okay.
So this is it's pretty minty. I mean, this was $35. Not bad at all.
So
it's really good shape.
For audio listeners, this box is like a long box. It's not the traditional,
it's like an NES box almost.
Square-shaped box that you'd see with a Game Boy game. Yeah.
It's a little bit thicker than an NES box, but it's very similar dimensions.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's not very many Game Boy games that have boxes like this. So I have to even see if I can get a case for it, but So that was that was the first one. And then at the game store, I'm pretty sure everything else here is from the game store. So like I said earlier, I just decided to purge as much as I possibly could. And I probably took like 150 games. They took 150 games. I took more than that. They bought 150 of them.
Wow.
So I have a lot of credit to use. This was the only NES Dragon Warrior that I didn't have in my possession, and they had it in box. It doesn't have the map, but it's got the manual in there and the cart. Dragon Warrior 4. This is one of those games that absolutely spiked in the last year. It's super hard to find and expensive. I think the cart only is like $170 now, just for the cart right now.
It's a real late NES game, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so now I have all 4 of them. I need to play through them at some point. I've never played through Dragon Warrior.
I don't know if you want to do that, Jay.
I mean, I like turn-based RPGs.
Yeah.
Anyways.
It's hard to go back to those NES ones.
Yeah. Speaking of turn-based RPGs, Gemfire for NES, they also had, this is like mint complete, which is one of the reasons why I picked it up.
I love the box.
They have this for SNES as well, and it's like the same game. So it's just another one of those. It's kind of inspired by Final Fantasy, I think, type games. Decent reviews from what I saw. Obviously, Dragon Warrior again. I think a lot of those reviews were good. I actually didn't look at that specifically. I figured everybody knew what Dragon Warrior was. This has decent reviews. Gemfire, not great. Probably like mediocre reviews.
I've never heard of that game.
Yeah. And let's see here. Next, we'll just do NES to start. So we'll kind of go. Basically, my whole point was either I was looking for like super rare kind of top 20, 25 games in the platform, or things that like I'll literally go through the game store and I'll look up prices for stuff that I don't recognize or don't immediately know what the current market is. And I just make a long list of stuff that they price at or below market. So if they've had stuff sitting on the shelf for like a year or longer, a lot of those prices are below where the market is right now. So I picked up a bunch of these games that weren't very expensive, but they priced them pretty well, and the market is way higher on them. So it's like, I'll just grab them now, while they're decently priced. So Totally Rad for the NES. Which, do you know anything about this game?
I only remember the advertisements in magazines for it.
Yeah. So it looks like a Mega Man clone.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. It doesn't look bad. A lot of people said, that it's a fun game. If you like Mega Man, it has that kind of just platforming and stuff. It seemed pretty interesting.
It's just, it's called Totally Rad. It's the most like of the time thing that you could possibly get, an NES game called Totally Rad.
I mean, like, doesn't it look like something out of Saved by the Bell?
100%. 100%. Like the font and everything, and the color scheme, everything about it.
What is that? How do you pronounce that? Jalico?
Jalico.
Jalico.
Yeah.
Jalico.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How much was that? Did I see a price tag on it? It was like $20.
They priced it at 22. It's going for like 40-ish now or something now. So basically, there you go. 22.
That's awesome.
So yeah, a lot of these games weren't super expensive, but like I said, the market's almost like double on them. So Super Spy Hunter for NES. Did you know that there was a Super Spy Hunter?
No, I didn't.
And of all the NES games that I picked up, this is probably the best reviewed. It's like in the 7 to 9 out of 10 range. Wow. So it's like Spy Hunter, and it's the top down, and it almost, when I watched the video of it, it almost looked like 1942 or 1943, like top down kind of shooter, but you're in a car. And so it's almost like a bullet hell car type thing. And it looked really cool.
It's made by Sunsoft too, I noticed. Sunsoft was one of those can't miss companies back in the NES days. Like Capcom, like they were just like hit after hit.
I'm imagining this is kind of the sequel to just the original Spy Hunter, because there's a Spy Hunter game on NES as well, which was okay.
Yeah, it was an arcade port, more or less.
So yeah, that was marked at $39. Another one of those games is probably going for $50 or $60 now on eBay. Cool. So I just and so I'm just I got a long list. This is called Ninja Crusaders. You laughing at the box art?
If you are listening to this on the audio version, do yourself a favor and check out the YouTube version because you want to see this cover. You want to see this art. It's terrible and amazing at the same time. It's amazing because it's so terrible.
So watching the gameplay of this game that's kind of how I would describe it. It's amazing but terrible.
Yeah.
Like actual gameplay. So you're a ninja, and if you could mash up Ninja Gaiden, Mega Man, and what's that Beast game that we did for Genesis? Altered Beast.
Yeah.
So you start out as a ninja, and you go around, and when you're swimming in water and stuff, you're just like you're in standing position swimming.
Yeah,
it's just awful.
They didn't have other animation for that.
All of the sounds for the weapons are exactly the same. It's like phew, 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 no matter what weapon you have. But you can turn into animals and like shoot stuff out of your mouth as like a tiger. I think
like a ninja does.
Yeah. So like I think there's a tiger and a bird, and there might be other animals that you can turn into, but it looked like one of those games that you just kind of have to. It didn't look awful, but I think just the reviews were not great. It was like 3 to 5 out of 10 or something.
Okay.
But it looked interesting anyways.
Ninjas were big in the 80s, man. There was a lot of ninja stuff. Ninja Crusaders. It makes me think of like ninjas coming to invade the Aztecs.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
All right, next game. They actually did a Switch version of this recently. The original Toki for NES.
Oh yeah, I saw that come to the Switch.
So for those that don't know, you're basically a monkey, and it's a platformer, and I think you shoot stuff out of your mouth as the monkey or something. And so he like spits, and it's kind of like it kind of looks like a Mega Man, but not really. Kind of platformer in that vein. There's like boss fights and stuff. But yeah, there's an updated Switch version for this right now that actually has pretty favorable reviews. The original Toki actually has really good reviews too. Again, kind of in the 7 to 9 range out of 10. So it's made by Taito, which is, for those that are collectors, Taito is one of those developers that you want to pretty much pick up anything made by Taito because it almost always becomes rare and valuable. If there's baby crying noises. So this was priced at $49.
Damn, Toki.
Yep. Next game is called. Let me reorder these a little bit. I'm just sitting here with a bin on my lap. All right. The next game, Motor City Patrol for the NES, which I watched a video of this, and it looks like the original Grand Theft Auto. Like, it's one of those games that I feel like Grand Theft Auto took their kind of motivation from, their creative
It's got
juices
the Matchbox license.
It does. So yeah, it's licensed by Matchbox. It is not a good game. All the reviews were really awful. You're basically a cop. It's the opposite of Grand Theft Auto. You're a cop. You're going around trying to foil crime, but you're basically in a car the whole time. A la the original Grand Theft Auto, if you ever played that.
Sounds like Tefty would like it.
Narc! So yeah, 53 on that. Again, kind of in the 80 range now. Next game, you'll probably like this one. And actually, Cool World for the NES.
Oh, I remember the movie. I didn't even know there was a video game made off of it.
Yeah, and I also got the Game Boy game.
Weird.
So I didn't get this from the game store, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So
are they any good?
No.
Yeah, licensed game. Why did I even ask? It's a movie licensed game in the 80s and 90s.
This Ocean.
Damn, that must have been a late NES game because Cool World definitely came out in the 90s. Like, what year did that come out?
That's a good question.
I'm gonna look that up.
Thank you. So yeah, I've never actually seen the Cool World movie. It just makes me want to go see it. I was told that it was kind of a darker version of Roger Rabbit.
Yeah. 1994 it came out. Oh wait, no, 1993. So that's pretty late for NES. Yeah.
So the game, it must have come out before the movie.
No, that's when the game came out. June 1993.
Oh, that's when the game came out. Yeah, so that's super late. So that's probably why this is pretty valuable. So they had it marked at 64. But again, this is kind of pushing 80, 90 Can't even see it.
Yeah.
So, and the reason why I'm getting them for anybody who's like, well, why are you? They're not worth that much more than what you're paying. It's like you're right, but you have to consider I'm using credit, and I also get 10% off, and I probably spent less than half. So I probably spent 20, 25 on this, like out of my pocket, or just that's kind of how it ends up being with trade-ins and stuff for me. This one I'm pretty excited about actually, and I didn't even know this game existed. Mickey's Adventures in Numberland.
Well, that
So this is
sounds
one of those.
fascinating.
This is one of those like educational games. And I watched a little bit of video, and it's just about like counting and stuff. You know how they have the Sesame Street games and whatnot. Can you imagine that this game is going for like almost $100 on eBay right now?
Just because nobody wanted it when it actually came out. 0 people wanted that game. Every copy of that game that ever got bought was by a grandmother buying it for their very, very disappointed grandson at Christmas.
It's probably why the label is in such good shape. Like it looks like it was like
because it never got played.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I don't like try to get a bunch of learning games or anything, but when they're like rare like that, I think they're fun. And with that being said, the next one is also in the same vein. Donkey Kong Junior Math.
Well, I remember that. That's an early NES game, though.
Yeah, 5 screw and everything. It's a terribly reviewed game, like 1 or 2 out of 10, just awful.
Yeah,
but this game is going for like
math right in the title.
Yeah, it's going for like $150 on eBay. It's ridiculous. But it's basically they're trying to incorporate this weird like math addition type thing into Donkey Kong gameplay.
Yeah.
It's like this is weird. I think they were in an era where they felt like, you know, they were rotting kids' brains, so they're trying to educate them now and define all that stuff. So I was actually really happy to pick this up. This is another game that just the market is super hot on right now. Which there's multiple versions of this, but the TMNT Tournament Fighters for NES.
Oh, that's not a good game.
Okay, so they have this for NES, they have it for Super Nintendo, and they have it for Genesis.
Super Nintendo is a good game.
Because they basically use the engine from Turtles in Time.
The Super Nintendo version of that game is actually pretty fun.
Have you played the NES version of this?
No. I've only seen it in action.
It looks like Turtles 1 for NES.
Yeah, but it's a fighting game. It's a one-on-one fighting game a la Street Fighter.
Right. It was one of the first, like, I feel like it was one of the first kind of games like that, too, one-on-one fighting games. One of the earlier ones, anyways.
No, I mean, it was a direct response to Street Fighter, like everything else. Like
was
Street Fighter 2. Yeah. When Street Fighter 2 came out, it set off a huge earthquake across the gaming land. Every IP, every company had to have a one-on-one fighting game. Tournament Fighters was one of those.
I remember actually so there's not very many on the NES.
No.
Specifically.
But that game came out. That was a very late NES release, too. Yeah. I'll look it up when it came out.
This is another one of those games.
I would guess 1993, 1994, 1995.
Yeah. Because didn't Street Fighter 2 come out in 92, 91?
Yeah. 92,
so
I think.
They had it priced at $149, but this is a game that's pushing like 200 on eBay right now. It's crazy. It's super rare on the NES. It is cheap on the Super Nintendo. I think it's like under $20. Same with Genesis. But yeah,
the Genesis version is no good either. Yeah, it came out for the NES in 1993.
Yeah,
which the Super Nintendo had been out for a year and a half.
Yeah, low printing of these games kind of spikes it up because they're hard to find.
Yeah.
So, and then the last NES game, there's more. The last NES game that I picked up was the doozy Swordmaster.
That sounds familiar. What's that?
So it looks kind of like Castlevania. Had a baby with, I don't know if Mega Man. It looks very Castlevania-esque to me. At least the aesthetic. But it's a bad version of Castlevania.
Oh, it looks hella Castlevania, doesn't it?
Yeah, really slow controls, just not very responsive and stuff. So it's not a very well-reviewed game. It's kind of in the 4 to 6 range. But
It
this
looks
is one
good
of those.
though, graphically.
Yeah, it looks great, but I think the gameplay is the main issue. But this is one of those games. I'm pretty sure it's top 20 on the NES like value.
Oh,
I
really?
picked it up. They had it marked at $249, but I'm pretty sure the market on this is still going up right now, and it's currently at like 300 and over.
Wow. I'll check it out on Mister because it looks kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, you'll have to let me know what you
Oh,
think.
I'm looking at a boss fight though. That does not look fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's the main. I think one of the main criticisms is just how difficult it is.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, on to SNES. Start well. So I what was it? One of the last episodes I picked up Sonic Blastman 2. I got the first one, Sonic Blastman 1, which is not a good game. This is
No.
another one of those games that's going up quick in price. Uh we talked about it's kind of like a Final Fight-esque game.
Oh, okay.
And another Final Fight-esque game that I didn't own, Captain Commando.
Yeah, that game's
Capcom.
good. That's a fun game.
Yeah. So it's Final Fight-esque. And the thing about Captain Commando with Capcom is he's referenced in a lot of stuff.
He is.
A lot of the manuals for NES for Capcom games, and a lot of the stories for a lot of the games and heroes and stuff. It's really interesting. It goes pretty deep.
I think he was supposed to be like the Capcom kind of like mascot, but I don't know why they
Like
wouldn't just
nobody
use Mega
thought of
Man.
him as that. Yeah, right.
But yeah, for some reason.
So
The
I got
Play It
that one.
Loud era was fucking weird, man.
But this is another one. This is a pretty rare game. They had it marked for 115, but it's going for like 145,
Really, I'm
150 now.
surprised. I'm surprised that's
Yeah.
rare.
Yeah. I don't know. I never really see it around, really. They had one copy there, so.
Hmm.
Another one, Blackthorn. This is one that I've been looking at. It's Blackthorn. It kind of looks like Pitfall or Indiana Jones, kind of where you're platforming, a lot of jumping, a lot of repelling and things like that. But it's pretty dark.
Yeah, I think it's more along the lines of like the original Prince of Persia or Blackout. It's like a priority goes to animation, not necessarily gameplay. It looks really cool. You have a
Flashback too.
flashback, I think is one of those. You have a
Yeah.
shotgun that is pretty damn satisfying to use in that game.
It looks fantastic. The graphics,
It
like when you're
does.
running around and stuff, really fluid.
Yeah, I played the 32X version of it when it was new, and I loved it. And unfortunately, I didn't hold on to that game. And I've never seen another copy, but I would buy a copy of it for the 32X if I found it.
This one was priced at 49, but it's like in the 50 to 60 range, I think, right now for the cart. So not too bad. And then next to last SNES game, next one's boxed. I've wanted this forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had never pulled the trigger on it because the price that they had was a little bit too high for where the market was at the time. But I just waited until the market caught up. And Sparkster for SNES.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Which this is a fantastic game. It is the sequel to Rocket Knight Adventures for the Genesis.
Yeah.
Which is I've never played either.
I think a top 10 game out of the 16-bit era.
Yeah,
it's that both good.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I own Rocket Knight. It's one of the games that I won't give up. I enjoy going back to it. It's a really good game. I've never played Sparkster, but I mean, it's supposed to be really good too.
It's supposed to be like better than the first, I think.
I don't think that's true.
And well, in some ways, but not in others, I suppose.
I think an idiot told you that.
If I can get Rocket Knight Adventures like mint in box, I'll definitely add it. Which I don't think it's very expensive. It's like in the $20 to $30 range for the cart.
Yeah.
But this one is they have it like the price at the game store was like 160, which is right where the market is right now on this. So, but they've had it priced this way for like a year.
Yeah.
So literally, I was just like, I'm just gonna wait, and it just never sold. So, last SNES game. And they had this priced really, really well. Lufia 2, complete inbox with the manual, the map, everything. Yeah, they had it priced really reasonably like I say reasonably, but it was $229. But market on this is anywhere, depending on condition, from 250 to 400.
Wow.
So, yeah. So now I have both of them complete in box. My first copy is pretty beat up though. which I've heard really good things about this RPG as well.
Yeah, I've never played either one of those, but I've heard good things too.
I think I own all but one of the Lufia games now. I think I don't have the DS version, but I have like the Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Color, both Super Nintendo games.
Is that an active series? They're still making them?
I think DS was the last one they made.
Okay.
Rise of Sinister. That's what this is. I don't know what the DS one is called. I don't think they have any other ones after DS though. All right, Game Boy. A couple of them from the game store. Bonk's Revenge for Game Boy.
Oh shit.
So now I own every Bonk's game except for the NES one, which is fucking expensive. It's like $600 or $700. So
you own the TurboGrafx ones?
Yes.
No shit.
PC Engine TurboGrafx.
Yeah.
Those aren't very expensive.
No. Well, Bonk 3 is, right? 3 is expensive?
That might be the one that I don't have then.
Okay.
I don't have that one. I have Bonk and Bonk Revenge on PC Engine and TurboGrafx.
Okay. I didn't even know they made it. I didn't even know they came out for the NES or the Game Boy until like within the last 6 months. That's ridiculous to me because they were like the mascot character for the TurboGrafx. So it's like,
oh really?
The fact that they ended up showing up on Nintendo consoles is kind of weird.
It's an interesting looking platform where you're like a kid with a giant head.
Yeah.
Running around.
Yeah.
And then Mystical Ninja for the Game Boy, which I don't know why I have this like fascination with Mystical Ninja and Gomon.
Yeah.
There's the Game Boy game, there's the SNES version, there's 2 games for 64, and I now own all of them.
Are the N64 games good? I've heard a lot about them, but I've
heard good things. I haven't played them.
Okay.
But I have heard good things, and those are getting pretty stupid expensive as well. But yeah, both of these were priced basically where the market was, but they're in good shape, and I really wanted them. So $55 for Bonk's Revenge and $42 for Mystical Ninja. And then the other Game Boy game, or one of the others, I guess, Street Fighter 2. So I got a lot. It was a Game Boy Color in 18 games for like $110. And the reason I bought it was because a single game in that lot was worth what the whole entire thing was going for.
Wow.
So whenever I see a lot like that and I find a game that I've never seen before, I immediately look up the value of that game. And that's what this game is. Knight's Quest for Game Boy. Look at the developer.
Taito.
Yeah. So as soon as I saw that logo, I was like, I bet that's worth something. I look it up and it's going for over $100. So I was just like, buy. And then like the rest of the stuff, there was a lot of like $10 to $20 games. One of which was Street Fighter 2, which I'm adding the collection for Game Boy. And then Cool World for Game Boy, which this game is going for like $40 or $50 on Game Boy.
Cool World makes a double appearance in
episode right?
17.
Really interesting. Well, I got this first in the lot, and then I saw it at the game store, and I'm like, well, the Game Boy version is worth quite a bit. I wonder if the NES version is, and it is. So I was like, all right. 2 more games to look at. Which one do I go with first? Because they're both like stupid expensive games. All right, so this game is a Blockbuster exclusive for N64, which there wasn't many. And it was actually not going to be released. They were going to scrap the project, and then I think Blockbuster basically stepped in like, hey, let's do a limited release. You can sell it in our store. Kind of like Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut and stuff, where it was only available at Blockbuster, which is why it's so damn expensive now. Stunt Racer for N64. And this is one of those games that's actually good.
Really?
So it's a racing game, but there's like stunts and stuff. Think like a Rush 2049 type game.
Oh, okay.
But it was like a solid game, like 7, 8, 9 ranks out of 10. But yeah, they had it marked for $329, which the current market when I picked it up was $400, and in 2 weeks it's gone up to almost $500.
Oh my god.
It's stupid expensive. But yeah, like it's got all of the Blockbuster logo stickers and stuff on the back, you know.
I just looked it up, and it was a stretch 16:9 video of it, and it looked horrific. Not because the game is bad, just the video of it looked
yeah.
like, oh boy, that looks bad.
But from most people, what I've heard is like it was surprisingly way better than they thought it was going to be.
It looks like classic cars in like a rail kind of racer, like a I don't
Like
know,
a Rush or
F-Zero
something.
or Mario Kart, right? Like classic cars in Mario Kart kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty
It
accurate.
looks pretty fun. Kind of wacky,
And then the
too.
last game, the retro stores had it on their buy list, and they like were offering 200 cash for it. And I was like, I wonder if anybody will trade it in. So I've had my eye on the Game Gear section. You probably know where I'm going with this. I've had my eye on the Game Gear section for a few months now, trying to see if it'll come in. And I saw it, but I didn't have enough credit. So I literally went back the next day with a whole nother bin of games to trade in to get enough credit to buy this. Mega Man Gold for Game Gear, which about a year ago I had an opportunity to buy this on eBay for $110 and I passed. And now like they had it priced at $325. And that's where the market is. And it's just going up, 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 up. Like this is the Game Gear game.
That's the most expensive one.
I'm pretty sure.
Is it
Card
a
only.
good Game Gear game?
That I don't know. I mean, how bad can a Mega Man game be? Really?
Real bad. Have you ever played the PC version of Mega Man? It's super bad.
The GameCube version?
No, the PC version of Mega Man.
Oh, I didn't know that there was a PC version.
That's because they don't want you to know. They want you to forget about it.
Oh man.
Game Gear. I gotta see this game in action. I'm looking it up on YouTube right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't look bad at all. It looks like a good Mega Man game.
Yeah. Let me see what the reviews are. Yeah, like 4 out of 5.
Awesome.
4.5 out of 5.
It looks great too. Like it looks fantastic for a Game Gear game. Damn.
Yeah.
When did this come out? Was this one of those like games that came to Brazil because Brazil was still making the Game Gear until like 2012?
95 is when this came out.
95 came to the Game Gear in 1995. Wow.
And
that
this
looks
is the
amazing.
that is the absolute like hot ticket for Game Gear. It's the most expensive game.
It looks outstanding.
So I don't know. For anybody who's new to the show, I like just having rare stuff, and if I can get it for cheap, like trading in games and whatnot, I will absolutely. It's just fun to have. I don't know, the history of holding a game like this in my hands. I almost get more satisfaction over that than actually playing them. It's weird. I don't really know how to describe it.
I'm still watching YouTube videos of Mega Man Gold, and it looks like I can't believe how it looks spectacular.
Yeah,
like graphically, I don't know how it plays, but I mean, it looks great. I'd say better than Mega Man on the NES.
Yeah,
interesting.
I
didn't even know it came out on Game Gear.
Looks like it's kind of like zoomed in.
All portable games do though, right? Because you're looking at such a tiny little screen. If they had like, imagine playing N++ on a Game Boy.
But it looks like there's only four bosses in this version.
Oh, really?
Like the Game Boy versions generally had less too, I think. Like even on a Game Boy.
Okay. Still, that's an impressive looking game. How much does it go for? 300 something?
Well, it's really dependent on the label. So there's a range. It's like between 250 and 350 is what I'm seeing in the last few months.
Wow.
It really depends on label condition. At this point, when you get into the high end retro games, like label condition can make or break the value of a game. Like you can have a game like Hagani that's going for like over $1,000. If the label's all ripped off, it's like a $600 game. If it's pristine, that's a $1,400 game. Like it's so crazy because to find these in such mint shape is difficult. And this label looks perfect.
I feel like portable games got messed up, especially Game Boy games. Game Boy Color games, their labels are always all fucked up.
So I will say, if you get a mint Game Boy game, it's one of the most satisfying things in the world to look at.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking at the YouTube video, it's not as mint, but like the Cool World, like I have some pretty minty Game Boy games, and like just they're so satisfying, and that little stamp on the lower right is just so strong. But when
Because
they're in good shape,
when you pulled it out, you'd actually touch the artwork, right? Like when you actually interact with the cartridge.
well, no, that's what the thumb thing was for. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to pull it up by
Yeah.
this thing.
Kids don't give a shit what you're supposed to do.
No. But a lot of times there's like yellowing and stuff on the backs and all that kind of stuff too.
There's a reason we know what Switch games taste like.
What do Game Boy games look like? Taste like?
Yeah. There's a reason why Nintendo felt a need to make Switch games taste bad.
Right. And I'm starting to get into learning about the different releases for all the handheld games and the reprints and stuff similar to the NES stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned how many prints of like Pokemon games there are and stuff. But there's differences in labels. So just as a quick little one-off here. Cool World here has a really, really shiny label, and then my Street Fighter 2 is a little bit matted almost. Has less of a shine. So if you see Super Street or Street Fighter 2, it's shiny, but not as shiny as Cool World.
Yeah.
I can't really show that.
Is that because of wear or because of the printing?
It's the no, it's the printing. It's kind of hard to show it in the picture, but it's like when you're looking at them, one of them is super glossy and the other one's like shiny because it's good condition, but it's more matte. Doesn't have the reflection. And you see that in Game Boy Advance games a lot too, because when they changed the manufacturing from one location to another, they used a slightly different label and whatnot a certain year. So you can have the same game from two different years that have different looking labels. It's really interesting, and I don't know if there's a whole lot of information behind that. I need to keep looking, but those are things that interest me. It's weird. I'm a nerd. Labeled RetroSlot, where you can learn about label differences.
Should we wrap this one up?
Exciting.
Fortunately, I was going to open this loot crate, but I just don't think there's going to be enough time in this episode.
Oh, so maybe next time.
Maybe next time. We'll have to see.
Did you have any other game pickups?
No, I didn't buy any games.
Do you own Resident Evil?
No, I played it on my computer emulated on the PlayStation emulator.
We have to choose what we're gonna play for next episode.
Oh shit! I totally forgot. Now I kind of want to play Mega Man on the Game Gear.
And then also, tentatively, we're gonna have a guest on the 15th of January. Keep your eyes on Twitter to learn who that is.
June, you mean?
June, yes. 7 months from now, January. No, June.
Let's get the hype going now. We're gonna ride this hype train all the way to January.
We're only 6 months away from our next guest. He's amazing. June 15th. Yes,
that'll be
he already
super
picked
fun.
out the game for that too, so that'll be easy next.
I've never played it. I think neither one of us have ever played it too. That's kind of exciting too.
Yeah. So, and actually, next episode is next week because this one was the one that was delayed. So
okay,
we have 1 week now to play whatever game we're gonna play. We got 1 week.
1 week. I think can we play Mega Man Gold
on Game Gear?
I mean, what's relevant right now? What's actually
covered?
Like,
did we cover? We covered Mega Man 1, didn't we? No, we didn't. Have we covered Mega Man 1?
I don't think we've done Mega Man. Oh yes, we did. When
we did.
When Mega Mag was on.
I bet Magwitch would like this game. All right.
Okay.
We could do Rocket Knight Adventures.
I love it. I would absolutely love to do Rocket Knight Adventures. Okay, perfect.
I gotta pick it up. Gives me an excuse to buy it.
Yeah, perfect. All right, sounds good. Rocket Knight Adventures. This is actually one of my favorite games. I think it's a top 10 16-bit game. All right, so we'll do that for next week. If you'd like to play along and join in the conversation next week for Rocket Knight Adventures, we encourage you to do so. And by next week, we actually mean next week, not just off the tongue next week. So next week will be what? Tuesday. Oh, see, we're switching months. The 1st. Perfect.
June 1.
June 1st. Excellent. That'll be super fun. I can't wait. I'm sure there'll be plenty more to talk about as well. Jay, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at JSniperton. This week, we are raising money for St. Jude. All week, we were doing raids and had Cosmo on last night, and lots of things to give away, lots of prizes, lots of incentives, make me eat nasty stuff, and it's not fun, but it's for the kids. And we also have a charity shirt going till the end of the month where all proceeds go to St. Jude. And if you want to learn more about that, you can check it out on the Twitch channel. What about you, Briar?
You can find me. I just actually today released possibly the stupidest video I've ever released on YouTube. But also, I think I might be the most proud of this video than anything I've ever released on YouTube. It's right there. It's on the bleeding edge of stupid, but really fun. So I encourage you to go check it out. My YouTube channel, of course, is YouTube/BriarRabbit.
I'm gonna watch that. I'm not even joshing.
It's stupid. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.